Hi, folks. This is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report. Well, I got to tell you, it's just a short period of time before trout season starts. You know, that's a big deal for me, and I've talked about it before. But what's it going to be like for all of you? I called my buddy Tim Damon in Potsdam. Tim is one of the best fly fishermen, one of the best fishermen I've ever known, and his specialty is trout fishing. And I said, Tim, look it. Is there possibilities in our area right now? I know the Salmon River is your favorite. You have a place there. But is there places in our area where people can go out and fish for trout in the early season? And he told me a number of things, and I think these are important things. He says, I got to tell you, it's really tough when that water's so cold and high in the bigger streams, like the St. Regis River or the Salmon River in Malone. These are famous trout fishing waters. It's really tough in the beginning of season. But he says, he said, I would tell people to concentrate on the smaller brooks. And I says, okay, well, where are these brooks? And do we have any native brook trout fishing in these brooks? He says, oh, yes. There's a brook that goes through Colton, and that, he says, I haven't fished it in years, but that has native brook trout. He said there's also along 11B in Brushton, the Little Salmon River. If you go upstream, the farther upstream you go, you can get into native brook trout. And that applies to most of the small streams along 11B, or even going up by Chateauguay. If you go in the upper stretches, the farther up you go, the more you're going to get away from the not native trout, which are stocked or maybe still live there, which are brown trout and rainbow trout, and you will get into the native populations of brook trout. So this is something I think we should be aware of in the early part of season. Now, what do you fish with? I said, Tim, is it possible for people right now to do well fishing with flies? And flies can be any number of type of flies, from nymphs to streamers to whatever. He says, I've always said a good fly fisherman will way outfish a good bait fisherman. And then he paused and he says, if, the word is if, the water temperature is 50 degrees or above. Because once it gets that warm, their metabolism increases and all kinds of things are happening under the water, and there's emerging insect life, and that becomes kind of the key to what these fish live in and eat most of the time, is aquatic sort of organisms like nymphs and flies and emerging everything. So once it gets above 50 degrees, then fly fishing becomes a big deal. But right now, I got to tell you, and I've said it, I don't look on bait fishing is this bad thing that so many people seem to do. It's not sporting. It's not this or that. No, it's part of how, if we trace fishing back to its origins, it's part of how we fish for hundreds of years, is with bait. And it can be fun. And we've talked about that before. So I guess my best advice is for early season trout fishing, and it can be fun. I would suggest you use either good old-fashioned angleworms, and little angleworms in my book is always better than big night crawlers, or salted minnows, or maybe even something like Berkeley Gulp, which I haven't really used a lot, but might be effective. So, boy, I can't wait till the season starts. You know, I can imagine and I can glorify all those wonderful moments, but I remember as a kid, April 1st, getting up at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, waking my parents up, and down on the river I went. Even though it was cold, the water was high, and I had to stick to a little pool where it wasn't as violent, and I could throw a worm out there and wait for a twitch. Until next time, folks, this is Don Meissner with the North Country Fishing Report.